Hey, it's Kurt, and you're listening to F Your Opinion. This is a podcast where I chat with some of my F1 friends. Today, I'm joined by my buddy Dan. Dan and I met in a very random way, and since then, we've attended four F1 races together on three different continents, and we always have a great time together. We spoke the Thursday before the Spanish Grand Prix. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and YouTube, so be sure to subscribe and tell a friend. Enjoy, and F Your Opinion.
So I'm here with Dan. Dan is another one of my long-time F1 fans. I was thinking, I've met pretty much every person that's been on this podcast. I met at a racetrack in some way, shape, or form. And kind of funny story how Dan and I met. It was Turkish Grand Prix 2010. And I was so frustrated with the fact that there was no F1 races in America that I literally made a vacation to Turkey to go see an F1 race. And strangely enough, that was the actual weekend they announced that they were going to build a track in Austin and then, resurrect the USGP at a dedicated Formula One track, which was kind of cool. But yeah, it's funny. I was in Turkey. I was sitting at FP1. I was sitting in the grandstand, and there was hardly anybody there. And I was just sitting there, kind of by myself, thinking, I wonder if there's any Americans at this race. And I was just kind of looking around. I was like, no, there's a couple like Russians, a couple Ukrainians, some Polish people, some other Europeans. But I was like, oh, there's no Americans here. And literally, in walks the guy, sits down, asks the guy next to him in like a perfect California West Coast accent, hey, like, can I sit here? And I was like, no way. I totally was like, hey, you an American? We totally struck up a conversation. Turned out we were staying in the same hostel, like an hour away from the track. And then ended up having a blast there, had a great time at the race and had a great time in Turkey. Ended up going to the Australian GP the next year together. And I think we've been to a couple US GPs,
Yep.
together. And maybe we'll get another one going this year. But
yeah, and you know what else I was just thinking was crazy about the Turkey race? Or no, yeah, Turkey, where we met. The Red Bulls took each other out.
yes, how appropriate. That's an amazing segue, Dan.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, yeah.
I cannot believe that happened. I cannot believe that they are not benching Verstappen. He should be benched for a race.
It's pretty interesting. And, I read an article today where they were saying, Verstappen, it's like a magic trick. When he first came on the scene with his really aggressive moves and he shuts that door so hard on every driver whenever he makes a move. It's like a magic trick you can only pull so many times before people are wise to it. And now that everybody kind of knows, like, hey, Verstappen's super aggressive, I'm not going to let him cut me off, or I'm going to be just as aggressive to him as he would be to me. It's starting to come around like, okay, bro, you're going to have to work on your racing ability there. You can't just dive bomb people or cut people off. But man,
he's an absolute liability.
Yeah, he's going to have to grow up a little bit.
The FIA should be stepping in and sitting him out of a race by now. I mean, I think he's been involved in an incident at least probably every race this season, if I recall.
Yeah.
He's been involved in something dangerous.
Yeah.
And he just doesn't seem to take any responsibility. He'll apologize to the team, but he doesn't really put it on himself. I don't think he was completely to blame in Baku. I mean, I think he was 90% to blame, but he definitely is over his skis, in my opinion. He's overrated. He's got a huge following. He's going to be a world champion probably in 7 to 8 years. But at this point in his career, he's already, even though he's 20, he's still 4 years into his career, 3.5 or so. He's I think he's just completely. I'm sick of him. I'm completely sick of him. And Red Bull is just catering to this guy far too much. I mean, they're almost like.
I think it's
they're
telling that
sacrificing
they
their own
locked him into a huge
so that
contract.
no other
at the
team
end of last
they
year,
seem to be more concerned about him going somewhere else than them trying to do their own thing.
Who knows, what that came with, all the winning bonuses and,
of what
all the
sports is all
perks
about.
and all that
thinking
stuff.
about winning
They
now and
locked
trying
him
to
down
take
for
advantage of what they
who
do
knows how
have
many
and not
years.
worried about what could happen
it was
later.
at least a 3-year deal. But
he should be sacked.
and Danny Rick is still kind of floating around, still kind of negotiating, still trying to work it out. And I do wonder, is that Ricardo holding back and trying to look at what other offers are out there? Or, they haven't really shown him the big money, like, hey, look, here's a $100 million contract for the next, 4 years, or here's a really fat contract that you just can't say no to, which is, I'm sure what they showed Verstappen, to lock him down. And I mean, it's probably in Ricardo's, to Ricardo's defense, it's probably in his best interest to move on. Because it's clear that Red Bull has picked who their number one driver is, just like they kind of did with Vettel and Webber. It's clear who their number one driver is, and especially after this weekend or this past weekend in Baku, it's very obvious to Ricardo, I'm guessing, that like he's not going to be able to stay there.
Right.
He's not going to be the favorite son. And so I think it's really in Ricardo's best interest to move on, whether that's Ferrari, whether that's Mercedes, if he has the opportunity at either one of those teams, yeah. 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 Yeah.
Well, those would be the only two teams that would make any sense for him to try and jump onto. And, I don't think it would happen at Ferrari because, he's already beat Vettel when they were teammates in Red Bull in 2014. So I don't think Vettel's going to go with that because he knows Ricardo will probably end up smoking him. And then that'll hurt.
Yeah.
And so, the other place would be Mercedes. And, I mean, why would you get rid of Bottas? I mean, even though he's not, maybe I would almost put Ricardo slightly ahead of him as far as talent. But Bottas is a perfect player. I mean, he's a great team player, and he understands the big picture. I mean, just look what happened this last weekend. I mean, if that was most of the drivers on that, in that grid, they'd be barking, whining, and just he's a professional. So how do you get rid of that? How do you, So I don't know. Ricardo, I think his best option is to just continue where he's at, do what he's doing.
Yeah.
And it's going to take a little bit longer for most people to expose Verstappen.
Yep.
It's not fooling me. He's overrated, and he's full of himself, and he needs to have his ego checked, and he needs to sit out a race. I mean, Daniel Kvyat didn't even do, for as far as this year goes, didn't do as what got him demoted. He didn't do anything as bad as what Verstappen has done up to this date. Now, I know he's won in the past. He won 2 races last year. I know he won in Spain, which is obviously what's coming up in his debut with Red Bull. But, so,
I
I'm
think
not
that's
saying,
a good point. I mean, what you're saying about Kvyat,
quite yet, but
he had a chance,
definitely,
and Verstappen has thrown
because
away
of his age,
a lot of
and
constructive
he just
points
needs, and he's
this
dangerous.
year.
He needs to just realize he's got another 10 to 15 good years ahead of him. He's going to be there. He's going to be good. I'm rooting for him in the long term, but
team
he needs to
in constructor standing points. And
somebody put him in check.
I mean, I don't know how long.
Before he hurts himself,
Red Bull
else
almost kind of doesn't have a choice because they've invested so heavily. Again, he's got a fat contract. That's they're just getting started with this guy. So.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. 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 Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, but I mean, Verstappen, the way that those contracts, those things aren't worth what the paper they're written on these days. I mean, if they don't, do what if they put him in check the way his ego's right now, he's more likely to want to just move. He'll just park the bus. I mean, that's just what will happen. They'll just fine, go somewhere else and wash your hands of it. Because I'm not saying he doesn't have all the potential to be great, but he's got to check himself.
Yeah.
I mean, sooner the better. But no, I don't believe that Red Bull needs to shine somebody who's showing up every day, working hard, putting up with a lot, and still getting
I think a big
results,
part
better
of it
results.
is
I mean,
Verstappen never competed in GP2.
"Oh, I've been out driving Ricardo, even though the points."
That is the last.
What does that mean? You're great in qualifying, but that doesn't give you points. That doesn't do anything for the team.
He got pushed through so
qualifying
fast.
Doesn't mean.
And for me, that's where you really hone that skill.
Stefan,
and it used to be, if you were the GP2 champion, that was a guaranteed Formula 1.
I just cringe when I hear this guy.
He went from Formula 3, GP3, I think, directly to Formula 1. And great, that's
whole life,
good for him. But for him not to go through again those feeder series. No, he went from Formula 3, straight to Formula 1. And so that's a huge jump. Right. So there's.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Right. And at what, he was almost 16 to 17 years old, basically. So, I mean, not even, you could say F3 if you were 20, or Lewis was 21 or so when he came in. He won. I mean, other guys have done much better, quicker in F1 in terms of their experience within F1, but not at that age. That's been the big difference, which I don't think is really relevant, personally.
Yeah.
Especially with somebody who grew up with an F1 dad. But
beyond Verstappen, I mean,
like I said, everyone's going to give him the benefit of the doubt, particularly because he's got such a massive following.
That much of a ruckus on the
I was in Belgium last
grid.
year. I know
we haven't really even spoken this F1 season, so give me your recap on the season.
They're not going to mess with that.
How do you think it's shaking out?
Brings, but I just hope he doesn't kill himself or someone else in the meantime, because he's dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm entertained. I love it. I'm entertained. I think Ferrari's obviously start off great. They got a little bit lucky.
Yeah, it's kind of cool looking.
It's always like that, though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's always going to be some breaks that are made, but it's super close, which is what everybody wants to see. Certainly myself. I'm glad that Red Bull, is up there. They're doing well.
Yeah.
I expect them to do really well this weekend in Spain. I think Mercedes will do well. I think Ferrari's going to fall back a little bit. Unless have you seen that new halo they got with the mirrors and you got to see that. It's pretty sweet. Yeah. It looks cool.
Yeah.
So, this will be a fun weekend just because, there's always a little bit more, tweaks to the cars. This is about the time they start tweaking them a little bit more. And you'll see some different
the ESPN coverage, I think it's going full commercial free now.
I've been very pleased with the season.
Because I think there was a lot of outrage
although,
over the Australia
the
coverage, which was pretty terrible with all the random commercials. But I think they,
this last one in Baku
they worked it
the
out to be
one.
totally commercial free.
There wasn't any commercials that I
don't know if you saw, but the F1 TV
that was neat.
App subscription thing is out now.
But,
which is, I mean, this is going to be the first weekend where it runs, but I mean, that could be a complete game changer for at least people in the U.S. who've had lousy coverage forever. So, I got to jump on that and see what's up, but it's supposed to have, all the archived races from years in the past and, highlights immediately after. Yeah. Go check it out. It's on. Yeah, it's guys from Sky. So basically, probably the same thing you're seeing on ESPN, and that's why NBC got out of the game, is because they knew this was coming, and they weren't going to use their coverage. So it was like, why are we even doing it?
Kidding,
it's just going to go. You're going to have one global.
Wow.
You're going to have the main global feed.
You told me about that. So that's the one. So who does the coverage during the race? Will you be able to watch the races live on
that's good enough for me. I've been watching those guys for a long time, so I'm all about it. But yeah,
Sky or like whatever.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's like $70 for the year. No. Yep.
Oh, that's a game changer. Dude, I'd get rid of the damn dish on my freaking house if I could have that. It's the only thing I use it for.
Me too.
I basically pay $130 a month so that I can watch F1.
Yeah. And I think this is $70-something a year. So
yeah, that's a much better deal. And if I could see older races, that would be great. I wonder how far back they would go.
Well, they have the whole archive. I mean, Liberty Media bought.
You think they're all on there? Wow.
I don't know if they're all on now.
Make that all available.
Yeah, I don't think they're all on now, but it's coming. It's they're going to roll all that stuff out and have you can watch the highlights from the 1996 season or something. If you wanted to. I think eventually they're going to fill out the whole back catalog. So
I'll never leave the house. That'll be great.
Yeah.
That'll be amazing. So what else?
Well, let's give your thoughts on some teams and some drivers. How do you think? For me, what do you think between? Well, at the beginning of the season, everyone was thinking, it's who's going to get on the podium first, and I brought this question up: is it going to be Renault or McLaren? And out of nowhere, Force India got, Sergio Perez put it on, right place, right time. And it's luck, they definitely kind of lucked into that position, but Sergio Perez just has that knack for stealing those podiums. But Force India aside, Force India started off pretty lousy in testing. I think for whatever reason, their car just wasn't maximizing its potential, but it seems to be coming online now. But I love seeing Force India compete. But them aside, I still am really looking forward to that Renault battle, that Renault, McLaren, Red Bull battle, and I'm curious as to what your take on those three, because they're all running the same power unit. McLaren loves to talk a game that, if we had the Mercedes engine, we'd be destroying their, Red Bull and Ferrari and all this stuff. So now that, McLaren really has to kind of put their money where their mouth is, I'm really interested to see, what your take on those three Renault runners. How do they shake out, over the course of the season?
Yeah. Well, I definitely think that Red Bull is going to be way ahead of those other two. In my opinion, I just think I think they're a step ahead in the game, just with their chassis design and everything, and they've already had success, so they know how to win. They're good with that, unless Verstappen, screws it up. But I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But I really, really like Renault. I really want to see Nico Hülkenberg get a podium. I think he is incredibly underrated. I think he deserves a podium at this point in his career. He seems to get unlucky at times, so I'm shooting for him. And that's how I'd like to see it play out. Obviously, Force India's got the upper hand at the moment, but I definitely think that Renault is in it. They've always seemed to get close, and then things happen, and it doesn't always work out. But I think, if it were just speaking as a fan, I'd certainly like to see Hülkenberg and Renault, the factory team, beat those guys out. And then, of course, for me, that midfield stuff, I'm more looking at Williams because they're sort of my favorite team. They're kind of the team that I started out with when I was young. So this year is a complete loss. I mean, they're horrendous and just hard to watch. So that's unfortunate. So I'm not really paying too much attention to that. And then Haas, obviously just from trying to get that support there.
Yeah.
So those are more the two teams that I'm kind of looking at further back.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I think Haas is I think they're actually not doing too bad. They just need some better. I think it's time to shake up the drivers a little bit.
Yeah.
I'd like to see them at least replace Grosjean.
Yeah.
I think it's time for something just drastic to bring somebody in. I think would be cool.
Yeah, I think Grosjean's on borrowed time, especially after that screw up in Baku where he just, totally threw it into the wall. And even the team principal.
And then he tried to blame Ericsson. I think Ericsson hit me.
Yeah, even Gunther Steiner, the team principal, in the press was kind of like, this is like beyond a rookie mistake. This is like, dude, if you're making that kind of mistake, so that's why I think if Grosjean, and I don't know who's test driving for Haas. It's what's his name? I can't remember his name. He's one of the young guys coming up. I think he's like a Ferrari guy. Really young guy. It'll come to me in a minute. But they need somebody experienced.
I think. I wouldn't want to bring in a young guy for that team, but it's going to be hard, obviously. But
Santino Ferrucci is their test driver, and an Indian guy who I've never even heard of, Arjun Mani. So that's their test driver lineup. But there's no way. What about Kubica?
Somebody he's been out for a long time, so I don't know if he'd be the best fit, but somebody with that sort of, I would have even taken Massa or somebody like that, last year.
Yeah.
Something with a name just so that you can go in and say, okay, this is what you need to do to the car. This is what it's supposed to do. This is what I've been at Ferrari. I've been at, these places, and this is sort of how it needs to be. And then they're not going to be there long enough to probably see those games, but they can't have, I don't really think that Grosjean, that he's really going to be able to provide the sort of input that team needs. I think the team has actually outperformed him.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Of delivering him a car. And I think he's just farmed it on most occasions. But when he got it together, they're doing decent. They'll pick up points,
Yeah. So, I think that, you have the little team screw-ups like the double DNF in Australia. Definitely, that's, I guess, kind of growing pains or, whatever, early rookie kind of mistakes, even though they're a maturing team, But, I completely agree with that. I feel that the car is outperforming the drivers. I rate Magnussen higher than Grosjean.
Me too.
I feel that Grosjean has experience, but it's you've never seen, I don't think, a brilliant drive out of Grosjean where he just cut it up through the field, or he put in a qualifying lap that was just, impressive, where he was driving the wheels off the car. He's a halfway decent number 2 driver, but for him to be kind of the lead driver in that team, I think they've kind of maxed their driver potential. And somebody like Massa, although, I think he was kind of done, at the end of last season, done at the end of last season. But a mature driver who's got the know-how to set up a car, who's got the understanding of what it takes to kind of see a team, come together and do all this stuff is, I really think, what Haas needs. And I think that I don't know what Haas's options are, if Grosjean keeps underperforming or if he makes one or two more stupid mistakes, the season's just getting started. So if he has one or two more screw ups, I don't know what their choice is, but I would be at a point where it's like, dude, we got to find somebody else, for this
I
season.
think Gene Haas has to open up the pocketbook and try and get Kimi. Kimi doesn't used to be screwed by now. that he's like, okay, I know I'm not going to win at Ferrari, no matter how good I do and whatever. I'm going to be finding a way to be behind Vettel. And then we'll get this awesome historic driver who's a world champion to go in and just put it around the track a few times, please, and tell us what do we need to do, because he knows.
Yeah,
but it won't happen. That's just me dreaming.
That's true. I think
somebody on their way out.
Yeah. I think the question is, does Kimi have the enthusiasm? Does he care? It seems like he kind of cares a little more this year, because I think he realizes maybe this is going to be really his last shot to get a win, and I don't know. I don't think he's in it for the championship, but in order to at least go out on a high, But yeah, Kimi to Haas, next year that would be pretty interesting. I'd like to see that.
That would be awesome. Yeah, that'd be the dream.
But and this weekend, I mean, this is, to me, the Spanish Grand Prix, the start of the European leg is really where things start heating up. The first couple races, it's the people are figuring things out. You're seeing where the cars are. You've got a couple of early races in there where, it's there's still that kind of shakedown period. But I feel like, this race, Monaco, Canada, Great Britain, that's where really the heart of the season is. And that's where I think you're really going to start seeing when those upgrades hit and the cars kind of settle into their performance ranges and the drivers start getting comfortable. That's where, the season starts to get interesting. So yeah, I'm super excited for Spain. It's not a great overtaking track. It's a pretty fast track. But I think it has the potential to set up for the good part of a good remaining rest of the season. So
like I said, I think Mercedes is going to start hitting their stride a little bit more and separating themselves a little bit. I'm thinking that's going to be the case. I think Ferrari will probably slide back a little bit for this weekend. Just a feeling.
Yeah.
And then I think they'll probably regain in Monaco. I think they're going to have a stronger Monaco than Mercedes will.
And you're going to be there, right?
Prediction, but my feeling, I will be there. Yes, in Monaco.
Awesome.
I'm very happy to say that I booked everything all finalized today. I needed one more hotel for the last night in Nice before I got on my plane. So very excited.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to have to make that. If that's a tradition, this is what? How many years of going to Monaco is this for you?
This will be my fifth.
Jeez.
My fifth
year. All right. Next year, I'm going to do it. I got to block off. I got to block off the time, but we'll do it.
It's such a great time.
Yeah.
It's a really fun one. It's well worth it. There's a reason why they call it the crown jewel of the Formula One calendar. You're just totally immersed. Everywhere you go, there's all the cars, the people. It's just a fun time.
Yeah, we'll have to do a post Monaco recap with you when you're back. So you can brag about all the parties and all the
pleasure.
people you saw.
Yeah.
And then
look forward to that.
Are we doing Austin again? You in for that?
I'd like to do Austin. I really would like to I'd like to go to Mexico City again this year too. I want to try because I don't think I'm going to get to go to do another European trip during the summer. So I'd like to do Austin and Mexico City, something a little bit closer, something I can go for like 4 days, 4 or 5 days. It's not like a huge trip. Because I like doing those Europe back-to-back weekends. Those are so fun. Because then you can, with a 10-day trip, you can go see two Grand Prix.
Yeah.
That's the ideal.
Yeah. I gotta pin that one. Yeah, I gotta pin that one down too. So this year I'm going to Canada with a couple of these guys here.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna bug them about going to Austin. And if we're gonna do that, we gotta jump on the Airbnb and all that stuff and the flights and all that stuff before it gets crazy. We'll figure it out.
Well, there's always my buddy Shane. There in Austin, we can crash out.
Yeah, we may have to do a show just on that experience from last time. So.
Yeah, with video.
Oh man, yeah. Hopefully we can get a more private accommodations this time around. But
yeah.
So cool, man. All right, dude. Well, it's going to be a good race weekend, and if I don't talk to you before you go to Monaco, have a blast. Send me some photos, and I'll definitely talk to you when we get back or when you get back.
For sure.
And yeah, man, absolutely. And we'll
awesome.
I'll start bugging people about going to Austin, and we can see if we can get a big crew together to make it happen.
That'd be great. Cool. Great. All right, man. Well, thanks for the call. Looking forward to talking to you next time. Alrighty.
Absolutely, man. See ya.
Cool. Peace.
See ya. Bye.